PWDCompare function or password compare function is a system function in SQL Server that allows you to compare a clear text password to the hashed password stored in the system. It's typically used internally by SQL Server during login, but we can use it manually to check for weak or common passwords or blank passwords, and that's what we're going to do. Before we get into the demo, let's talk about why weak passwords are such a big deal in SQL Server, or any system really, for that matter. Weak passwords are like leaving the front door of your house unlocked. They make it incredibly easy for attackers to get in. No fancy hacking tools needed, no stress needed, it's just easy to get in. In environments that use SQL Server authentication, logins with simple passwords like admin, 1234, or no password at all are basically an open invitation to a breach. If a malicious actor gets access to your SQL login, they could view, delete, or even manipulate your data. Or worse, they can escalate privileges and take over your entire server. That's why identifying and eliminating weak or blank passwords is one of the first and most important steps in hardening your SQL Server security. I have my SQL Server Management Studio up. Let's create 10 test SQL logins. Some with blank passwords, some with common weak passwords like the actual word password or 1234 or admin. I'll bring up a query window. I'll paste these scripts here. If you look at a SQL script that we have on the screen, you see where it says create login and the name. I'm using these names for us to identify the type that it is. Now, create login, the name of the login here is weak blank with password. There's no password in here, it's empty. And here, weak password with password, just the word password. And here, create with password 1234. So these are the passwords for these logins that will be created. If I expand my security and expand logins, we see the logins that I currently have here. So once we have this created, this should appear here. What I mean is this. If we go to logins and we right click to create new logins, we see this right here. If I click on SQL Server Authentication and I give a name and a password, these parts get highlighted where it says Enforce Password Policy. If Enforce Password Policy is up or is highlighted, then it can check for password complexity. People also have a way to pass that with weak password, which we're going to take a look at. Now, the only reason the script that I have on my screen may pass this would be if I uncheck this, right? So if I cancel out and I leave this the way it is, and we go ahead to run this script right now to create these passwords, we see the message that it gives us. Password validation failed. The password does not meet the operating system policy requirements because it is too short. The reason this happened was because we have that box checked when you're creating new logins where it says check for enforced password security. This is why that did not happen, because that was too short. But sometimes when we create passwords or we create logins in some environments, that box is not checked to enforce password policy. So in that case, it's going to be like, if you look at this other script I'm putting on the screen, it's going to be like creating or a login with passwords as weak as that. But then we're saying, if you look here, we're saying check policy off. So I'm just going to use a script to do this. And if I do this, you'll see that this is going to go through. If I click on execute, we see that we have all of them created. And if I go here and refresh my logins, we have all those logins created with weak passwords. Now, there are also situations where the password policy is enforced, and people still go ahead to create password that would meet the complexity, but then they use very weak password like this. And you can see the password that I have here is just password 1, 1, 2, 3, 4 ABC, admin 1, 2, 3. It meets the length requirement, but these are still very common weak passwords. If I go ahead to drop all these ones that we created before, let me do that with a script down here. I'll just highlight all of this and execute. And then I'll refresh the logins here just to make sure that they're gone. Refresh and we see they're gone. I'm just going to delete these from my screen so that cut them so that we can recreate. So now those logins with a short password are gone. The logins that we're creating right now on the screen right here, they have long passwords, right? They are not short. So, and they could meet that sort of complexity, but they are still very, very usual words and weak passwords. So even though that box is checked to check for password policy, if I click on execute, oh, I missed this right here. So this is not supposed to be here. I should have this here. And if I go ahead now and click on execute, we see that all of them are created. We have those logins. If I refresh, we see those weak logins created. I'll drop these and use the short ones that we had before. Refresh and just close this out and go back to this. And I'm going to go ahead to create these ones. So we have the logins. Now that this is created, how do we use PWDCompare function to find out these weak logins, these logins with weak password? Let me comment this out. And I'm going to put a script below here for us to see how this is used. Microsoft documentation has a syntax for us to do this. And if you just go on Google or your favorite browser and type in PWDCompare, brings you to the Microsoft documentation. And we can see the transact SQL here giving us the syntax, what to use, and some other things that can be done. I'll put this link in the description along with the scripts that I'm using for this demo. So I'll close this out. To check for those weak passwords, we can see the syntax that we're using, which is select name from sys.SQL Logins, where it's going to compare that password. We can see right here in here, we have no password where we have blank as password. If it's equal to 1, that's if it matches, it's going to list out that login. And for this one, if the password matches 1, 2, 3, 4, and if it's equal to 1, it's going to list out that login. So if we try them for these ones right here, I'm just going to highlight and execute this. We can see the specific logins that meet this weak password requirements fished out. And better still, in a way to have them done to even list out the actual password that they have, if I go down, I have a different script here. If I select this and execute this, we can see that it will list them out with the corresponding passwords. And if I want to do this for all 10 logins we just created, I have this script below. I'm going to highlight and execute this. We can see all of the logins that we created with the corresponding passwords. Now, to even make things more interesting, instead of just reading it like this, we can actually, for audit purposes, log this into a table. We create a table, and I have a script here for that. We can go ahead and create a table. And then we can go ahead to insert the results into that table. Execute. If I come to my databases right here, let me go refresh, and I go to DemoDB, and I go to tables. I see a table here right now that we created for this. If I right click, I can read from it. And we have that information right here. And you can see it shows us all those passwords that we checked for. You can see here it lists the login name, it lists the password, and this specific one we can see it's blank, there's no password, and it tells us the audit time. So these can be logged into a table periodically for audits if we want to. So with this, we've created scripts not only to detect weak passwords or no password, but logs them into a permanent table in DemoDB for tracking over time. You can even schedule this using SQL Agent Job for continuous auditing. But there's one important limitation. This function only works with SQL logins. It does not work for Windows logins because SQL Server doesn't store Windows login passwords. Those are handled by Active Directory. There are ways to check those in Active Directory using PowerShell, but this just handles SQL logins. And that's how you can use PWDCompare function to detect weak SQL login passwords in your environment. This is a powerful tool for any DBA doing a security audit, but use it responsibly and always follow best practices. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet for more videos like this. Thank you for your time today. See you in the next video.